We have a kidnapping crisis in South Africa now. Before you say another journalist is again saying there's a crisis, hear me out. Let's start with one of the definitions of a crisis. The Merriam-Webster dictionary, for example, says, and I quote, an unstable or crucial time or state of affairs in which a decisive change is impending, especially one with the distinct possibility of a highly undesirable outcome. That said, the spike in kidnapping can't be viewed as a picture of stability now, can it? I remember a time when the numbers were around 1,900, but now we're talking around 4,000 plus cases. Gauteng is seen as the kidnapping capital, with Johannesburg accounting for 40% of the cases in this province. So, who's getting kidnapped?
It's not really mainly women. In some other categories, which is highly so for the high-profile people, those who are in business, where you'll find that the demand of the ransom is quite high. It runs over millions. In some other instances, you'll find that it's within the transport mode, where the demand is 1,000 or 3,000. And it is not necessarily a specific, I would say, gender.
At some point, the nation was gripped with extortion cases. Now it's kidnapping, and it seems criminals move from one to another. But why?
You find that kidnapping is on the rise because it is linked to other crimes, like your rape, your hijacking, and so on. So we've got that type of kidnapping where the motive is not kidnapping, but it's other crimes associated, like your armed robbery, your rape, your hijacking, and so on.
I hope this is not going to become the trend, but unfortunately we have seen that kidnappings is a lucrative crime and it pays. And the criminals in South Africa commit these crimes because they can and can get away with it. And crime pays.
We often speak about kidnapping for ransom. Some are kidnapped and robbed of their belongings. But what are we not focusing on?
Let's look at the silent crime that's occurring in South Africa, which is occult crimes, meaning the trading of human parts for traditional medicine. In South Africa, I think for the longest time, whenever it is towards winter season, you'll often experience more kidnappings. Mainly, it's because of several cultural activities that are happening, but also the illegal or the dark market of occult or illegal trading in human body parts.
Now, back to my earlier point, we have a crisis, one that needs urgent attention. Why is it so difficult, though, to crack some of these cases? What about the cases that go unreported because families are fearing for the safety of their loved ones? Police have cracked this one syndicate and are adamant there are no other syndicates in this particular space. But is that indeed the case? All right, let's have this conversation now. The kidnapping trend is starkly on the rise in South Africa, and Gauteng is the epicenter. Delivering the fourth quarter crime statistics for Gauteng, Commissioner Mtombeni conceded that kidnapping remains a stubborn problem to curb. Mtombeni says kidnappings increased by 15% in the province, and further adding that 88 arrests have been made linked to 62 cases of kidnapping in Gauteng alone. Let's look at the national picture, right, and also zoom into Gauteng as well. We speak to the Deputy National Police Commissioner in charge for the South African Police Service of Crime Detection, that is Major General Shadrack Sibiya. Thank you so much for your time this evening. There's, of course, quite a big focus now on kidnapping. And I remember at some point we would speak about extortion, we speak about quite a number of crimes that are currently going on. Would you say now, with the focus on kidnapping, it's because criminals have moved on from other crimes, or is it just because it's the main focus for now?
Good evening and good evening to the viewers at home. All I can say is that kidnapping is a very serious and very concerning type of crime that is being committed, as it affects most especially vulnerable people. And it's really something that we need to focus on. But in the past financial year, I can safely tell you that we've had a total number of kidnapping cases reported in the country, up to 18,159, with 3,524 arrests. And we are making impact in the fight against kidnapping.
And when you look at kidnapping itself, right, some have described it, and I describe it as a crisis, because when you look at some of the cases over time, you're seeing an increase here. And I wonder if the police, you say it's serious, but are you treating it as a crisis? We're really treating it not necessarily as a crisis, but we are very much concerned about kidnappings, because we do have teams that are allocated specifically to deal with kidnappings. And we've partnered also with the private sector, business, and also we have also private security that are working with us in fighting the scourge of kidnapping. What are your teams that are specializing in this telling you is the reason why Gauteng is the capital? We have private securities that we are operating with. We also have our anti-corruption kidnapping led by the intelligence sector. And we're also working with, we've got organized crime teams that we have that are really fighting kidnapping on the ground. But we have a multidisciplinary team. Each time there is kidnapping, we all come together. We've got teams that are operating together to fight kidnapping. And why Gauteng? All over the country, not only in Gauteng. But we're seeing the numbers concentrating much on Gauteng, and you're even seeing a 15.8 increase in Gauteng. What makes this province the epicenter, according to the investigations? I think we all know that Gauteng is the albatross of the country. All other provinces, Gauteng would, if Gauteng accounts for 50% of the total crime that happens in the country, all other provinces will share the other 50%. So Gauteng, and if I were to give you an example now, when you look at the dockets registered, Gauteng alone would register 9,647, but you will find that in Eastern Cape is 834, Free State will be 622, and then KZN will be 3,305, with Limpopo 664, and the total being 18,159. So Gauteng is where everybody is. You're talking about this 18,000, is it of cases of kidnapping? Of kidnapping for the financial year, from 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of March 2025. You do have some concern from, some of the crime experts and analysts who are watching the space, who say that while it could be 18,000 cases, or we're talking about Gauteng being the epicenter, there are cases that simply go unreported. And in some of these cases, they say that potentially families would be too afraid to report to the SAPS because their family members' lives are in danger. Are you agreeing with that fact? Look, that is possible, and I don't think the police would know about a crime that was not reported. But safe to tell you that we do have cases that get withdrawn before court and in court. Sometimes you find that the police have done their work, they've arrested the perpetrators, and only to find that the suspect would come to court and say, I no longer want to proceed, and the court will never force any complainant to proceed with the case. Are they giving reasons why? Well, sometimes they do agree in money, and sometimes the client or the complainant will just lose interest. So when you listen to the earlier briefing by the Gauteng team, they talk about the fact that, a common occurrence is that people would be kidnapped and then taken to a place where they are kept for a while, and then while their accounts are being cleaned out. Are you finding that that is a common occurrence nationwide? It is indeed true,
But what is more concerning is the fact that kidnapping, unlike cash in transit is hard crimes, where you find that those who engage in cash in transit, they know that it's a do or die. But now in cash in transit, you're focusing on soft targets, on people that are not really even expecting you to pounce on them. And the moment the person is kidnapped, and they focus on vulnerable communities like your Chinese communities, in mainly business people, who, when you have them, they make sure that once you have this one, you are certain that the family will panic, will go into a shock mode, and they will make sure that they want to get their loved one safe and sound. And so they will work even without or behind the back of the police to make sure that they pay the ransom.
So when you talk about soft targets, right, sometimes people can view this not only as, business people, but also in some of the cases they say women, elderly and children. Is that the trend, or are you seeing that there could be more?
It varies, because when you talk about, there's your lower level chances, those that will just kidnap a school girl and then want to get the car for 1,000 rand, or take the cell phone and this and that. Or you will have a simple criminal will just kidnap somebody, even if they got 5,000, they are happy. But you will have those that kidnap. There are instances where we have people that are still kidnapped since October. And we're doing all we can to try and rescue those people, and we're searching and looking. It's just not easy to deal with some of these cases.
If you say that you're looking for people that went missing possibly last year, October, does it signal that those people could now be either outside the country, or could have something happened to them?
It's possible. Remember, this is transnational, because some of the people are operating from outside the borders. Sometimes we're looking for you here, but you're not around.
Mm-hmm. So when you then listen to one of the crime experts that we were using, whose clip we're using, he says that there's not much of a focus on rituals, the kidnapping for rituals. And he argues that that might also be one of the causes why we're seeing what we're seeing, because some of the people are being kidnapped for rituals. Is that what you're finding as well as you're detecting crime?
No. Mostly it will be for money, for ransom. It won't be for rituals, because it is for rituals, it's only certain people. And that you don't find many of them.
Now, when we look at kidnapping, and I'm going to borrow from what an article in the Daily Maverick says, Lizette Lancaster from ISS says, research shows that robberies and by implication kidnappings are committed by relatively few perpetrators. And these crimes are highly responsive to focused, intelligence-led police supported by dedicated investigation units and forensics. Do you agree?
No. Kidnapping, this type of crime is organized in nature. And you will have perpetrators at different levels. You will have the lower levels, your level ones. These are the people who will just follow and monitor your movement. And you will have the second level of people who will be the one now to kidnap you. You will also have the ones now who will be the driver. Mm-hmm. And then you will also have the one who will actually guard the victim, whether it's for a month. Every one of them gets paid. And it does not necessarily mean that they work together as a team. This level may not know the other level. They may not even know each other for that matter, because that's why when you find that the person who is scouting and who is surveilling this person does not necessarily know. He must just make a call and say, I can see him where he is and this is what's going on. The others will come and kidnap. But the one who kidnapped doesn't know where this person will end up. Don't think that as they take him and they take the victim, they drive with the victim into the car, into the boot of the car, and they drive. And the next thing, they don't know where that person is going to be kept. Even themselves, even when you arrest them, they don't know where to point out the house where the victim is.
That's quite interesting.
Only the person who is behind will know every movement.
The person who would have done the master planning.
Yes, that's the person now who does the planning, who identifies the role players, and then we'll make sure that there's no link between the role players themselves.
So then how does that further complicate the work of the police, and what strategies do you then put in place to ensure that you deal with all of these layers? Because if the one maybe at the bottom is not even aware who the fourth person is, then it speaks of an approach that is integrated that you might need to put in place there.
So you want me to tell you the strategy?
Don't give it to me, all of it, because we don't want those who are at home, possibly watching, who are in the space to know. But just for me, how does it complicate the picture?
The picture is really complicated, and for us to be able to break through, we do have a multidisciplinary team that operates in this space. We have a pool of excellence, people that know, that are dedicated, that master this type of environment, that know where to start. And it's a whole group within the police system, and working with the private sectors, with the hostage negotiators and other relevant role players. Each and everyone knows what to do. The moment the person is kidnapped, we gather, we come together, and we start operating.
You might, of course, have seen the panic from a lot of people when you watch social media posts where, women would be talking about the fact that when you think about this syndicate that has been targeting women, that there are a lot of questions that are being asked now. You think about the fact that some of the women are saying, how sure are we that this is the only syndicate and that police are now investigating? Are there no other copycat syndicates that would be there? And to try and, really target some of the women as well, steal their phones, and some of them ending up being statistics of murder.
It is indeed true. Women are mostly vulnerable, and that is why anything that affects a woman, it's really looked at very seriously. And we try to make sure that, especially if it affects a woman, we work around the clock to make sure that we attend to issues of GBV. But we also have a challenge where you find that some of the cases are false cases. But mostly they are not false cases, they are real cases, and we give our best attention to attend to such cases.
But do you have other syndicates that women should be worrying about that could be targeting them for their cell phones, for their cash, for anything? Do you have?
You see, the problem is, especially women that are vulnerable. Let me give you a practical example of Olerato. If you communicate with someone that you don't know over a social media or over a phone or maybe on social media, and you set up an appointment to go and see the person, it's very risky. And I would discourage that women should really embark on such a journey, because it is not the safest you can find. If you meet a person because you know a person, or if you've met a person, you come across a person in an open and public space.
But some of the women were coming across these alleged perpetrators at malls. If we're now hearing of women being targeted at malls, it's a person next to you.
It happens.
So then it's not only social media.
Yeah. It happens because we've got a lot of cases that we're dealing with where women where they fell victim, and it's something that happened over social media. But it also happens where you find that, and especially where you find that someone is looking for a job, and you come across someone who promises you a job somewhere and say, look, we've got a company in Limpopo, come to Limpopo, let's go. You can't go with a stranger in a car to Limpopo because you're looking for a job. You also cannot, equally so, you cannot also just travel to Limpopo because you've been called by an individual where you have not verified any information. Should you come across such, make sure that at least even when you go in there, you are not alone, or at least report to someone, report to the police station and say, I'm going to a possible interview. I've never been there. I don't know the people. I'm asking for support. The police will definitely make sure that you're not going to go there alone and become another statistics. So it is my plea that women, and especially school girls, just don't find yourself communicating with a stranger and going with the flow and going to the stranger, visiting the stranger that you don't know. Make sure that someone knows and everything is safe.
So when we then speak about another area of concern, when you look at the crime statistics in Gauteng, and in fact, just yesterday, speaking to the community of Reveille, they talk about an informal settlement next to them, which is problematic, Zamimpilo, and this as they, they claim that the suspected illegal miners have infiltrated that space and making things very difficult for them. We've seen arrests in the past, we've seen raids in the past. One wonders, when you look at the issue of, illegal mining, what exactly is making it difficult for it to stop once and for all in the country?
I think the police are winning the war. They're winning the fight against illegal mining. When you look at the fact that 5,282 suspects, with the majority being illegal miners, have been arrested. Of course, we do have foreigners that are coming, and you also have various spots, various areas within Gauteng, Northwest, Limpopo, Bloemfontein, Free State, where you find that you do have illegal mining. And the role players are just too many. The police are working on them every day. They're arresting such people almost every day. They are in court. But I can tell you...
Are they getting convicted?
Yeah, they are getting convicted. We do have people that have been convicted.
Are you able to give us the conviction rate? Do you have it?
I do have the conviction rate. Let me see, 90... We have seized 2 million in cash, 90 illegal firearms have been seized, and as well as 43 trucks confiscated. And then we also have seized 1,293 explosives and 43 trucks. But the conviction, I think, is plus minus 100 in Northwest alone, more than 1,000 or 1,000 convicted. Not, let me say 182 convicted, not 1,000.
So when you then look at the fact that, and I hear these arrests, I appreciate them, but at Joburg, for example, a city like Johannesburg, today we're hearing from the crime stats that in the last report there would have been 5 precincts. Now there's 7, with Mondio added and Doornkop added as well. How much of a concern is it that we are seeing an increase in precincts as opposed to a decrease? Because one would have expected that at least maybe we are being told that there would not be more areas where people are, going to target some of what they're calling underground minerals illicitly.
Remember, this is a moving target. You will focus on a particular area and get it under control. And just when you thought you have it and you are patrolling, only to find that there's actually long started somewhere else. Sometimes it starts in the middle of an informal settlement where the police are not even aware, where they're not being informed, where you find that somewhere in someone's yard, they start digging and going down. And once they are down, they find a way to go underground towards another area where nobody can notice them.
So do you have enough resources, though, to tackle all of this?
Deployed adequately. We have deployed adequately on areas that are affected of illegal mining, and I'm sure you have all seen on TV, and the minister has been there several times, and even other ministers from government, they've been there also to attend to this illegal mining. And I can tell you that illegal mining is a priority in this country, and it is being attended to.
I suppose, and I hear you saying that it's a priority, but when you look at the criminal value chain here, let me just paint a picture for you. The criminal value chain in illegal mining, you've got the miners at the bottom, you've got the dealers who are the runners, you've got the, what the hawks are tackling, buyers at regional level, buyers at national level, buyers at international level. What we are seeing are arrests of suspected illegal miners. We then hear, for example, of some of the cases where you are able to get some cash, take money and all of that. But where are the masterminds? Where are the international buyers? Where are the national buyers? Can we start to see them being put behind bars so that these ones at the bottom are not the only ones facing the music?
No, it is indeed true that we do have those who organize crime and benefit from it without being involved. You have your level 5s, and your level 5 are those that are outside the country mostly. And those that are out of the country, you must know that now you are getting to organized crime space where it is the DPCI role, the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, from your level 3 when you start now by those are distributing and taking out of the country, going outside. That's the DPCI space that I think at some point you'll need to invite the DPCI to take you through the project and the operations that involved it.
And especially because when you speak about the Hawks, I know that they're looking at regional level buyers, etc., national level and all of that, but when yourselves, you are dealing with the ones on the ground, you're dealing with the runners, would you say that you've got a lot of them now convicted, not only arrested, because arrested is one thing, but them staying behind bars, them being deported in some of the cases is another matter?
Yes, we do have many convicted, but some are taken back home.
Do they not come back?
They do. They do. Some you arrest once or twice, but they do normally come back.
So it sounds like a losing battle.
Even though you deported them, they do come back. These are issues that have been raised before, but we are winning the fight because once we attend to a particular mine and we seal it, we make sure that it is fully attended to and properly closed. It happens.
But if they are going and coming back, whether they are going to another precinct, because now, if we're being told that precincts are increasing in Johannesburg, for example, if you are now looking at someone who would have been deported and that person has come back and they potentially have their eyes set on another mine, and the police now need to move towards there, is this not a losing battle that's also compounded by the porous borders?
Well, this is an elephant that will eat chang ban chang. You won't actually be able to address it all at once. You do make impact, you do arrest quite a number of them, you do deport a lot of them, and some others are on the run, and others are still inside, but you will find those that keep on coming, and you will also find new ones that are just coming because others have been arrested. Remember, up until you address the masterminds, then it will stop. But at this point in time, it's a mountain to climb. But we are working hard on it.
And I suppose when you speak about the masterminds, can South Africans be promised? I know that the Hawks, of course, are looking at the other different layers, the higher ups, but can you assure South Africans that we can see some masterminds behind bars?
Yes, there are projects that are running, and that's a space that the DPCI can come and tell you about, but there are masterminds that are under investigation that are being looked at, and it's not my space at this point in time from where I am to communicate such, because I'll be encroaching in the DPCI environment.
All right, let's take some of the viewer comments tonight. We are asking our viewers about some of the kidnapping cases and if they think that the police
the victims. I would say 90% we recover the victims, 90%. And I would tell you that if I were to tell you that if we say to you 3,524 arrests made out of 18,000 cases, remember that when we say out of 18,000, it does not necessarily mean that the arrest is slow, simply because that you will have your over 2,000 cases that are for prosecution, that are still in court. You will also have your more than 3,000 cases that are still running under investigation, because you don't always rush to arrest, because we are prosecution driven. Up until the prosecutor feel comfortable that you may go now and effect arrest on the following, that's when you can go arrest that one and that one and that one. But you can't just go one day because you feel that you had this one and then you've got 4 more that you must still go and arrest. You must also find a way of how do you connect them to the crime. Not that they are beating the system, but unfortunately, we work as a team with the NPA, and we can't just run on our own and arrest individuals.
So your detectives, who are often looked at as overworked and under-resourced, are they resourced enough, well-resourced to be able to deal with everything?
Look, when it comes to such crimes such as kidnappings, your extortions, your CITs, we've put adequate resources to run with this type of cases.
And of course, just before I let you go, as a final question then, because if you look at what Sekgote is saying there, he speaks about the fact that it looks like the system is overwhelmed with what exactly is going on. And I know you say that you're putting on adequate resources to these particular types of crime, but are you also detecting the other trends there? And I ask this because you speak about 18,000 cases and then 3,000 arrests. Are you finding that there could be the same perpetrators that are committing the same crimes being linked to multiple crimes? Or are these 3,000 perpetrators who are separate, who are then possibly accounting for 3,000 of the 18,000, then maybe we should then be looking at 15,000, or are you linking them to multiple cases?
To start with, let me talk to the statistics that were released by the minister. I'm sure the whole country will agree with me that crime went down. The numbers look good. It looks green. It means that the
Is it really green?
Yeah, it looks green. It's here and there we'll see red, but it looks green. And all the kidnapping differs. It's not all the kidnappings that you find that it is a kidnapping for ransom. You've got different type of kidnappings. Some of the numbers are not necessarily your hardcore kidnapping where someone has been kidnapped for ransom. We have ransom kidnapping where the victim is kidnapped with intention to extort money. We also have what we call tiger kidnapping, where robbery involves two separate crimes, and the first crime usually involves an abduction, where a person will just abduct the person and look for certain money. We also have express kidnapping, which is a method of abduction, where a small immediate ransom is just demanded, a small one. And then we also have a political kidnapping, which is conducted to obtain political concessions from security forces. We also have a bride kidnapping, where you find that marriage by abduction or marriage is by a kidnapper. Kidnapper is a practice in which a man abducts the woman he wishes to marry. So we're talking about a number of kidnappings that some of them are just small kidnappings that pushes the number. It's not like your hardcore kidnapping where a person, a businessman or a lawyer or a magistrate or a particular individual who is a businessman or a Chinese is kidnapped from his own premises or a church, then they will keep you for more than 3 months, demanding 20 million, 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, such type of kidnapping. We do have many of such, but the numbers are mainly increased by small kidnappings of when a person just grab a school girl and say, call the father and then I want so much, deposit so much into my account. Those are the lower level kidnapping where they may even ask for your, put it on e-wallet.
Yeah.
Those are your cheap, small boys taking chances. But the real kidnappings is where they kidnap you and they will even tell you that we don't want cash, we want it in a Bitcoin. You deposit money, 50 million in a Bitcoin. And sometimes you negotiate up until 10 million, but in a form of a Bitcoin. Those are your complicated type of kidnapping that we're dealing with. But we have found some ways of how to deal with those as well.
Thank you so much for talking to us this evening and really just painting a picture for us and breaking down and answering some of our questions. All right, let's go to this now. Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero has announced the formation of the city's bomb squad. The mayor has described this as a specialized unit meant to assist the city to arrest crime, fight lawlessness, and accelerate service delivery. The team to be led will be led by ANC veteran Dr. Snuki Sigrala, who will play a pivotal role in the revitalization of the city. And President Cyril Ramaphosa strongly criticizing the state of the city during his oversight visit earlier this year ahead of the G20 summit. Dada Morero is the executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg and joins us now via video link. A very good evening to you, Mayor, and thank you so much for your time. What an interesting name, a bomb squad. One thinks of other things. Who are they going to, who are they going to be targeting, in fact, and what was the criteria chosen?
Thank you, Bongiwe, for the evening once more. The team really, the team is Joburgers who want to see Johannesburg working. They want to see Johannesburg dealing with the decay. We have seen the decline since 2016. And of course, it's the team of people who reside in Johannesburg. And some of them have worked for the city before, and they've got institutional memory, and they know how to help tackle certain issues that affected the city at that time. So I then pulled these resources who have volunteered to say, we'll give our time, we'll give our expertise and our resources to help you to get the city right. So I'm quite excited that the Joburgers who are saying will not allow this decline to continue. We want to be counted, we want to contribute towards making Johannesburg great and even greater. So I've invited these individuals and they are here. Some of them had approached me even last year to want to contribute. Can we find a better way for us to be able to contribute towards a building of Johannesburg?
So does it come after the president's visit, and that was quite scathing on the city, even going as far as calling Joburg filthy?
No, I've been working on the idea also since last year, and that is why some of the individuals had meetings with them from last year who have been indicating that we want to participate in building Johannesburg. The presidential intervention comes as part of the programs that are going to help us to turn around Johannesburg. And you know that in February, I did write a letter to the president to say, look, we require support. We require national departments to also come on board to help us turn around. You must remember, Bongiwe, that Johannesburg is currently contributing just around 2% to the national GDP. So it's an important area in South Africa, and we cannot allow it to collapse. For any other form of expertise that would help us to turn around this thing and continue to increase our national contribution to the economy, I think welcomed, and it's important to take advantage of.
And I see that you speak about the fact that these are going to be individuals that are going to be assisting to arrest crime, grime in the city, and to fight lawlessness as well, and unlock the issues of service delivery bottlenecks, etc. And this comes against the backdrop of a city that is now accounting for some 40% of all kidnapping cases in the province. Is this going to be a focus for you?
Well, that focus is really with the South African Police Service, but you do know that as Johannesburg, we've also entered into a contract with the National Minister of Police. You know that we also have a police department in the form of JMPD, who are also helping the SAPS in a number of areas to arrest criminal activities, to reduce the impact of crime in Johannesburg. We've seen the stats as announced by the provincial commissioner today, which is beginning to indicate that the work that the SAPS and JPD are doing in Johannesburg is beginning to yield results, but more still needs to be done to reduce, especially focusing on areas of kidnapping. So the JPD will play a particular role. However, my emphasis on the Johannesburg Police Department is to ensure that by law enforcement is taken seriously so that we can protect infrastructure, we can deal with general lawlessness in the city. That's the focus and the expectations that I want to see from JPD, including amongst other issues, crime prevention.
And I know you speak about crime prevention and the issues of lawlessness that this bomb squad is going to be dealing with. And this morning, We heard that there's more precincts that have been added to Johannesburg as far as the issue of illegal mining is concerned. You've moved from 5 to now 7 precincts with Doornkop and Mondio now being added to the list. Is this also going to be yet another area of focus? Because it is lawlessness if people are going to be engaging in illicit mining.
Well, illegal mining is one of the difficult issues for us as JNPD. It's not only illegal mining that is affecting us, because it's also affecting our infrastructure, electricity and water. And as such, we require, of course, the participation of the SAPS. We may not have the necessary weapons to deal with illegal mining because they are heavily armed, and that is why the SAPS has to lead. We'll give a supporting role as JPD. And of course, we have indicated to the Provincial Commission that something has to be done because it's damaging our infrastructure on a daily basis. They're also stealing cables, then affect the supply of electricity. It's an important priority crime that all of us must deal with. So we believe that with our cooperation with the SAPS, we will be able to reverse this illegal mining. It is a big problem in Johannesburg.
The bomb squad is starting in Kliptown. Why?
No, we're launching it in Kliptown. As you know, that Kliptown is one of the important areas. The Deputy President will also be visiting tomorrow to clinic. We're also unveiling the Kliptown Development Framework, which is going to help us to now intervene in terms of provision of housing, provision of infrastructure. So we are now launching the program. The program has been there for some time, but it has never actually been given life since 2016. So I then decided as the executive mayor, today I want to launch it. We have put some money in the budget to start the work. And the work includes road infrastructure, dealing with sewer issues, housing, and of course, SMME support and the business district. And of course, we're also looking at the multi-purpose center that we're also going to be building in Kliptown so that communities can have facilities that they can use. So from now on, you'll see the development of Kliptown as an area being taken seriously. And of course, probably in the next 3 to 4 years, we will conclude the Kliptown development. So on an annual basis, we'll also be budgeting for Kliptown to ensure that changes face. And that's the responsibility that I've taken as the executive.
And I know you speak about changing face, right, when it comes to Kliptown. And one would have seen, for example, there's Freedom Square on the one end, which houses very, very significant history. And one thinks about the Freedom Charter, for example, and how in that square is where a lot of young people are supposed to go to understand what we speak about as a country when we talk about the Freedom Charter. But just across the railway, for example, when you cross the railway line, there's squalor. And one wonders, as you talk about changing the face, is it going to include that as well?
That's included in the Kliptown Development Framework. And the intention, of course, is to build houses, RDP houses, social housing, and of course, an other form of housing, well as bonded houses. So the idea is to change the entire face of Kliptown. We're starting to budget this year to start putting the programs together. We think in the next 3 to 4 years, we should be able to conclude the development of Kliptown. It is a necessary thing that has to happen. The historic site is an important a name within the history of South Africa. It's where the Freedom Charter was adopted 70 years ago. So we took a view as the executive mayor now that in fact this development has to happen. There's no more excuses. And our Human Settlement Department is online and all other departments are online to invest in Kliptown. We're also doing in the budget the main road called Union Road in Kliptown, Ward 17. That has the road is quite not good. So we've put money also to start there. So there's a lot of things that we are putting budget around Kliptown, and it's a commitment that the city is making.
All right, we'll then see how the work continues and see when it comes to this business, intelligence gathering as well on land invasions and also identifying pieces of land where you can then be able to improve the city if those things are in fact coming to fruition in the next couple of months. But Mayor, thank you so much for talking to us and unpacking your plans. That is Dada Morero, the Executive Mayor of the city of Johannesburg. Let's now take some of your comments just before we go for a quick break. We're asking you
Fortunately, the SAPS is not winning the kidnapping war in our country. We've seen the numbers. Instead of them going down, they're going up. And it's disheartening because seemingly most people who fall victim to these crimes are the women of our country. And I'm afraid because the criminals are no longer scared of being apprehended anymore. That's because there's a problem within our justice system. We are not strict enough and we're not hard enough. And this is a big problem. Usfunda Dembe from Mlaz.
Sam, Aloko 3 copies, Dumela. The police are doing the best they can with all they have. But until and unless there is external force from the public, they are losing this battle. People are living with criminals in exchange for money. People are giving away their children in exchange for money. And more so, it is impossible to have a police officer in any family. Hunger and joblessness are contributing to this effect. Bye-bye.
They can only win this war if they are adequately resourced. At the moment, they are under-resourced. Mingas Secunda.
Thank you very much for your thoughts. When we come back, we'll take a look at the report that the public protector released that was looking into our courts as far as the fight against gender-based violence as well is concerned. It's a year. It marked a year yesterday. We'll take stock a year later and we'll speak to the COO in the office in just a moment. Now, a year ago, Public Protector Advocate Koleka Gcaleka released a report into government's ineffectiveness when dealing with gender-based violence after an investigation into around 38 magistrates' courts across the country. The report found systemic administrative deficiencies relating to gender-based violence in the justice system. It further found that the allegations that the Department of Justice did not put adequate measures in place to protect victims of gender-based violence effectively were substantiated. Let's speak about the progress that has been made, if at all. I'm joined in studio by Advocate Nelisiwe Nkabinde, who is the Chief Operations Officer at the Public Protectors South Africa. Thank you so much for coming, Advocate. And this particular investigation, it started by something that is so heartbreaking. When you think about the fact that there was, of course, a woman who had gone to a magistrate's court in Bellville, and I'm not sure if we do have that graphic, if you can put it up, who went there and found that for her, during she found that when she was handed the forms, it was taking too long to actually complete. There would have been so much of a tedious process that she needed to undergo in order to be able to eventually get this protection order. Unfortunately, she passed on. When you look at that particular space, just that space alone of protection orders, have things improved?
Good evening, Bongiwe, and good evening to the viewers out there as well. Indeed, when the public protector started this investigation, it was around very sad circumstances that are not only remote to this particular incident, but that affect many court users and particularly women who are traumatized when they have experienced domestic violence and trying to approach our courts for assistance. And the issue of the protection orders remains still quite an issue that needs a lot of attention and redress within our courts. During the course of our investigation, we still found many women who raised concerns about the complexity of the forms that they need to complete, the language also that is used, which is mainly English, that many of the victims cannot even understand, and the lack of assistance also within the courts to even complete these particular forms. We do welcome the approach that has been taken by the Department of Justice in trying to rectify and provide assistance. Some of those measures they've started to implement, but some of them, as also indicated in our report, that they've got a great impact in terms of the lack of capacity or human resources within the courts to then address that. So,
are they addressing the issue of specialized prosecutors? Because I know it was one of those that was also raised as well.
Indeed, however, there's still a shortage. There's still a shortage of prosecutors. We had a meeting with the Association of Prosecutors and the Public Protector, where they also raised their own concerns that there isn't enough human resource capacity of dedicated courts for domestic violence matters. So they tend then to prioritize other criminal matters than your domestic violence cases. So it's a long-term measures that are needed that, yes, indeed, the department, including the minister, is looking at, and they have provided us with their implementation plan of some of those measures that are taken with immediate recourse to try and address these issues, but also long-term, having also approached the National Treasury for more funding so that they can then fill those critical posts that have been identified in our report.
Does this include those victim-friendly rooms as well, where women are not now forced, or GBV victims are not then forced to share spaces and not find some kind of privacy?
Those are one of the measures that have been included in the implementation plan to us, not only by the Department of Justice, but also by the South African Police, who have done the audit as per the remedial action that is in our report, where they need to identify from the side of the police, there are more than 140 police stations that do not have victim-friendly rooms, where the victims can actually speak about their stories in private and not in the company of other victims, but also at the courts as well. They have done an audit, and we are grateful for the allocation of budget for then the improvement of the court infrastructure so that they could be victim-friendly rooms that are established.
There was, of course, that concern that in some of the cases you found that police were reluctant or even delaying when it comes to recording some of the cases. Are things improving there?
It's a work in progress, let us admit, within the context of South Africa. The police have provided us with their undertaking in terms of the revised training program, because whilst they acknowledge that there is ongoing training that is provided to the police, having also highlighted in our investigation and report that the training must be gender focused, it must be gender sensitive as well in how they attend to victims. In how they do not dismiss cases that are reported of domestic violence. So they have revised their training program so that it can be gender sensitive in how these matters are actually handled. We are continuing to then verify and test this as an ongoing process from the monitoring of remedial action on the ground to see the effectiveness, whether it is felt for those who are using the police as well as our courts for this recourse and assistance.
So as a final one then, in a nutshell, would you say you are satisfied with how these entities are tackling gender-based violence and the cases there?
We are satisfied with the commitments that have been made. Some of those implementation measures that they have committed to as per our remedial action will take longer. For example, the police have committed to a 5-year plan of at least establishing 20 annually victim-friendly rooms. So we are monitoring the implementation thereof as they construct these victim-friendly rooms, and also trying to ensure the speed at which it has actually been done. And also, while we note the economic constraints nationally, but still pleading with the National Treasury to allocate sufficient budget so that these departments are able to deliver on the remedial action.
Thank
there
you
is
so
progress.
much. And thank you so much for giving us an account on the progress so that the